What's good, YouTube family? It's your boy KB, back to get boxing is just due. If this your first time on the channel, smash that sub button, smash the like button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when I drop new content. We on the road to the 10K. If y'all want to be a part of that, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. But let's get right to it, man. So today, we're going to be talking about none other than Carlos Adames, whose name is kind of hot. It's coming up quite a bit, especially after his recent win this weekend over Julian J. Rod Williams. Some would call it controversial. Some people didn't agree with the stoppage or the timing of the stoppage. They felt like J. Rock was still, protecting himself and kept his hands up, and he actually, at the time of the stoppage, he actually was still shooting a jab. He was in mid-punch pretty much in the fight, got waved off. And, for that reason, a lot of people think it's controversial. But nonetheless, he did get the win. He got a 9th round TKO stoppage, this past weekend over Julian J. Rock Williams, which I believe is his best win to date on his resume. And, I wanted to ask the question to the family, to the fans, to the boxing world, to the community, just how good is Carlos Adames? And I wanted to take y'all back on a little flashback of when he fought, Patrick Teixeira, who was 30-1 at the time that they fought. And, Carlos Adames was undefeated. And at the time of, I'm guessing this was his biggest test. This was back in 2019. And I gotta say, man, that fight was a war. Him and Patrick Teixeira traded blows pretty much the entire fight. I mean, they left it all in the ring that night, but I noticed a few things, and I understand that this was back in 2019 and he's improved, since then. He hasn't lost since then. He's been looking very impressive as of late. But some of the things and holes that I seen in the Patrick Teixeira fight, I also seen this past Saturday against Julian J. Rod Williams. Now, there's no doubt in my mind, Carlos Adames is a hell of a fighter, man, hell of a talent. This video is by no means an effort to, discredit what he's accomplished and just how good he is. But I did ask the question because I believe it's a fair question, just how good he is, because they're billing him as the most feared man in boxing. And like I said, when he went in there with Patrick Teixeira, they really went, back and forth, tooth and nail. I mean, this was a war, in my opinion. I mean, Carlos Adames busted Teixeira's eyes up pretty bad, both eyes. And, but this fight was the first and only fight that not only he suffered his first defeat, but he also was knocked down for the first time in his career in round 7. And I noticed, not just after the knockdown, but about midway after the fight, I noticed he slowed down tremendously, and that allowed Teixeira to gain, a decent lead and build some momentum at the back end of the fight. And I just noticed that, Adames' punch output dropped dramatically, and he was even more hittable than what he was in the first half of the fight. Now, reason I'm bringing this up today is because, we just seen him this past Saturday against Julian J. Rod Williams, like I said. And, he had it was a great fight to me. It was competitive. It was, ebbs and flows. It was back and forth. Adames was just getting the better of the work. He was like the younger, fresher guy. Julian J. Rod Williams brought everything he had, in my opinion. I think the fight was closer than what a lot of people thought it would have been going into it. I don't think Julian J. Rod Williams embarrassed himself in no way, shape, or form, but nonetheless, he did lose. And again, I seen some of the same holes I seen in the Patrick Teixeira fight, I was able to see in the J. Rock fight. You get what I'm saying? I noticed, at the, about midway, a little bit past midway in the fight, Carlos Adames has a tendency to slow down. And I think he did it as well this past weekend. But the difference he was able to catch a second win, whereas J-Rock was unable to catch his second win. And Adames was able to take advantage of that. But like I said, some of the holes that I seen was on defense. He got hit a lot. A lot of people, sometimes they look at the damage to a fighter's face and they think that tells the whole story. It don't. Some guys bruise and cut easier than others. It's just what it is. But make no mistake about it, J-Rock hit Carlos Adames with a lot of punches. I mean, he was very offensively sound when he was letting his hands go in this fight, and it was impressive to watch. You get what I'm saying? He was working with both hands on both sides. It was good to see from J-Rock, a great effort, but he was able to touch Carlos Adames often enough, whereas that could be a reason for concern when you step up even higher in competition. And like I said, J-Rock was able to not only get his respect, but he staggered him a couple times. And if I'm not mistaken, it Carlos Adames like he was buzzed on maybe one or two occasions in this fight. And J-Rock is not the biggest puncher, and him at 160, he looks good there, but he just doesn't seem to be the biggest puncher, obviously, there. So Carlos Adames was able to take the shots very well, and for the most part. But I did see, J-Rock hurt him a couple times, or buzz him, should I say, a couple times in this fight. And my thoughts is, Carlos Adames is calling for Jaime Munguia after this fight. He said, Jaime Munguia fears him. He thinks Jaime Munguia fears him. This is why he wouldn't mention his name. And we all know how offensive, Jaime Munguia is. And we just seen him a couple weekends ago against Derevyanchenko, and he went life and death with Derevyanchenko and was almost stopped. So I know a lot of people look at that performance and they like, if Carlos Adames is in there hitting you with those same shots, he's getting you out of there because he's a much bigger puncher than Derevyanchenko. And I could agree that's very possible. But on the flip end of that, if Munguia, who's very, offensive and throws a lot of punches, is able to land some of the same shots that J-Rock was able to land against Carlos Adames, he very well could be knocked out as well. So I think that's a very intriguing matchup. It's very interesting to watch. And the fact that Carlos Adames is hittable, I think it makes him very exciting to watch. And, he brings it himself. He's a strong kid. He has speed. You get what I'm saying? Good right hand. He can fight. Flat out, he can box, and we seen that just this past Saturday against J-Rock. He did his thing, but he got touched a lot. And I don't care what nobody say at the elite level. You're getting hit that often, you're susceptible to being knocked out. And a guy like Jaime Munguia, that's considered a puncher and definitely throws a lot, I could see that being problematic for Carlos Adames if that fight goes past 6-7 rounds. And I'm not saying that Carlos Adames has gas tank issues or he gasses out and anything like that, but I've seen him slow down in his Patrick Teixeira fight, which was his only loss, and I feel like that was one of the contributing factors as to why he lost. If you look at the fight, he was all over Patrick Teixeira early, and they would, even though they were trading, he was getting the better of the work, he was getting the better of the activity. So but as that fight waned and, we got to about the 7th round, which is the round he got dropped, he just slowed. I seen a considerable drop off in punch output, and I seen something very similar in the J-Rock fight. But like I said, difference was Carlos Adames was able to catch a second win. Not only that, J-Rock, in my opinion, was unable to catch his second win. And Carlos Adames also started doing some really, really good work to the body late in that fight that I think helped slow J-Rock down even more. So there's just a couple of the things that I've noticed with Carlos Adames. And like I say, he's a very good fighter. They're just trying to paint him out to be the most feared man in boxing. I think that's a bit of a stretch. And I get it. They're trying to promote him and build him as the new boogeyman. But you can't have two boogeymans, in my opinion, in the same division. On one end, they want to call him the boogeyman. On the other end, they want to call Johnny Beck the boogeyman. So like I said, that also will be a great fight. You can't have two boogeymans. And I think a fight with Carlos Adames and Jaime Munguia is a good fight to make. I think a fight with Carlos Adames and Jamal Charlo, who he's been on record calling out and disrespecting, on a couple of different occasions. I think if he feels as though he's just going to walk through Charlo, I think he'll be sadly mistaken. I just seen J-Rock have a ton of success. And, I got reason to believe if Charlo's at the top of his game, he switched on mentally and physically, he, in my opinion, no doubt will give you a hell of a fight, a very tough fight, if not outright beat you. And that's my honest opinion. Jamal Charlo ain't no run-of-the-mill fighter. And I know it's what have you done for me lately, But make that fight, and I guarantee you we'll see something special out of Jamal Charlo versus Carlos Adames. Now, again, just to be clear, this video was not to diss Carlos Adames or slight him in any way. I just want to, point out some of the holes that I seen in his only loss of his career, which I know was back in 2019, like I said. But fast forward to 2023, none of these fighters are perfect. Some of those same holes are still there. He gets hit, often, and I was able to see that with J-Rock. And like I said, if you're in there with a much bigger puncher that's able to hit you often, then that's reason for concern. And it also makes for a very entertaining and exciting fight. I like Carlos Adames. I like the skill set. I like what he brings to the table. I like his hunger. I like his attitude. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely a supporter of his, but I felt like, it was something to be said about the performance that we just seen this past weekend and the performance with Patrick Teixeira. Like I said, that was, in my opinion, his most competitive fight, obviously, to date, and his toughest fight. It was fought at a very fast pace and in the first half of the fight. And like I said, he slowed down in the back half, the second half of the fight, which I think cost him the decision. He lost a unanimous decision, 116, 111, 114, 113, and 114, 113. Now, for one, I think the 114, 113 score was more on par with what took place in the ring. I don't know where they got the 116, 111 from, because these dudes were going back and forth. Or then again, maybe they liked the pressure and the pace that Patrick Teixeira continued to fight with down the stretch of the fight. But make no mistake about it, that was a war. It was a great fight. And back to the question, how good is Carlos Adames? I think he's very good. But I think this notion that he'll just run through the elite level fighters, I think is something that people are just trying to push to make themselves feel comfortable. I don't think he runs through any elite level competition at 160. Although I think he'll be in a position to be successful in any of these fights because he's a damn good fighter. That's my thoughts. Y'all get in the comment section. Y'all let me know what y'all think about Carlos Adames. Am I on point? Am I off point? Let me know. Get in that comment section as always and let me know if I gave boxing its just due, because that's what I do over here, Just Do Boxing. To the next one, I'm out. Peace.